All right, I am here with this Saturn Factory. This is actually a re-recording of an old interview that never got published, so I'm excited to sit back down with you guys. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourselves, we'll get started.
Oh, okay. I am Rowan Carroll. I am a vocalist, guitarist, and sometimes drummer of the Saturn Factory, and I also do all the mixing, recording, and production.
I am Luke Stevens. I have a stage name or username, which is what it started as, Sparko. And so that's sort of my personality in this band, even though it's pretty much just me with a hat.
Reptile Randy.
Typically Reptile Randy, which is like the mascot of the band almost. I primarily sing and play guitar, but I also do a little bit of bass, a little bit of keyboards, a little bit of songwriting. And
oh, come on, you do a lot of songwriting. Your songs are good.
And a little bit of flute, amongst other things.
Yeah, I believe last time we talked, there were talks of bringing new people into your band as like either more permanent or like session musicians. How has that developed for you guys? Who have you found there?
Well, since then, I guess the week of that interview, so spring break of this year, we were holding auditions. I think we had about 5 people, and we got a drummer, Rob Adams, who was fantastic. And we also got Jacobo, who's also fantastic, and Saturn Factory. I guess initially it was supposed to be just for live stuff because, it was just the two of us. We couldn't really do shows. We had our friend Owen on drums for us, but it was always just kind of up in the air, and it wasn't really a constant lineup we were able to hold for shows. So we got a 4-piece, and it was initially just for live stuff, but I guess over time, it really shifted to become studio members too.
Mm-hmm.
So like Rob does drums on a lot of stuff, Jacobo does bass on a lot of stuff. So, we consider they're full members now, but I guess Luke and I are still like the conceptuals.
Pretty much the song makers.
We're the song makers, yeah.
Yeah, and song making, speaking of, now that we've passed by, congratulations on an album being a year old and having your EP be over 6 months old. Obviously,
yeah.
A lot of time has passed since we talked before, and that seems like it's almost impossible that it's been that long, but congratulations on that. And what are we looking forward to next in terms of, is it a full-length album, EP? What are we looking at next?
It's gonna be a double album.
We're also releasing 5 albums after that.
Yeah.
No, we're not doing that. Yeah, it's gonna be a double album. Probably like an hour and a half to
100-ish minutes.
Yeah, maybe a little more.
So
2 discs.
Yeah, 2 discs. I'm excited for that too. In terms of spreading that out, having it be a double album, is that more focused on the amount of songs or the length of songs? Because obviously on your first album you had some songs that were, really stretching and giving like more, 10 minutes plus or reaching out for that. And do you think that you'll be looking more at a volume of songs or a length of songs that you're creating and creating like bigger?
Definitely the former.
Yeah, definitely the former. Although I'd say it's kind of split down the middle. Like the second disc is more songs,
Mm-hmm.
and then when you look at the first disc, the songs tend to be a little longer. So
Yeah.
it's sort of like for each side of it, it's kind of more in that certain direction.
Yeah, I'd say like the average song length of the first disc. So, okay, put it in perspective. I think first disc is it 11?
It's 12, but it's longer than the second.
Yeah, it's 12 songs, and I think it's about 55 minutes. And like the average song length is like 6 minutes. And then like I think the longest it really gets is like 8 minutes. So yeah, it's like all of the songs are pretty lengthy, but the length is like it's distributed through the songs. Like,
Yeah.
I think 8 minutes is the longest it ever gets. There's not a
high boats on this
19-minute song at the end. So.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, songs like that can be impressive, but also sometimes they can kind of insist on themselves a little bit. Not that I would say that about your guys' song, but
I mean, that's kind of how
I think I would say that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Sure.
yeah, you go into a song like that, and it's almost like you're shooting for that as an idea. And so when you create songs and let them be like what they are, rather than like creating it for that as an idea, it can really lend itself. And how has songwriting changed for you guys between these albums? Because, inspirations obviously change, but has adding new people changed inspirations, or are they just bringing their styles to like your guys' songwriting?
I mean, for me, I think I've kind of been exploring a whole new world of songwriting where I feel like I'm kind of hardly writing songs anymore, which is odd, but I feel like I'm almost at a point where chord progressions or melodies, that sort of stuff, are almost like the last thing I think about when I'm writing a song. Like on this album, there's multiple points where there's like some of the longest songs are all one chord, or like it doesn't really grow from a progression. It really grows more from like rhythm and atmosphere and like just how it moves in like the different sections. So yeah, I mean, I'd say I'm at a point where it's like, I guess that's where I'm at now, and it's kind of scary because I don't want to just like, I don't know, having a long song that's all one chord is kind of dangerous property if you're not doing it right. So I have to be careful, but I don't know. It's worked out for me.
Me and Ron are sort of polar opposites in that way on this album, where you might be able to tell who wrote a song just based off of if there's a chord progression.
Yeah.
But like there's a song where it's sort of split. There's sort of two halves of it where there's a weird sort of chord progression, and then it snaps into this sort of building, sort of winding structure on the first disc, and it's going to be. I think that's like the centerpiece of or one of the centerpieces of the album, because it sort of speaks to, I guess, how we kind of operated within the past year.
I don't know which song you're talking about.
Oh, Two Cranes.
Oh yeah.
Well,
we mentioned some of our friends.
Mm-hmm. Songs about some beautiful people.
I'm excited to hear that and like see how your guys' like more distinct styles can cooperate and co-opt each other into like something more cohesive and the evolution there. But as far as inspiration goes, you're talking about exploring a whole new world. Where do you think that has come from? Is it like outside inspiration or internal? Because obviously, first album you're looking at a lot of interesting chord structures and even some longer droning passages at certain points. More rarely I would say than what you're saying this next album will have. But what inspirations have brought that to this album, if any specifically?
I mean, I'd say for me it's definitely internal. Like, it kind of feels like, what I listen to has not changed, like, since the first album. So it almost feels like I'm kind of learning more to hone in on who I am musically and actually make what I want to. Because it almost feels like the first album was like a test run of, like, let's just make an album for fun and put it out. But I feel like now we're kind of more realized, and I know what I want to make musically. And, of course, it's just inspired by personal events, whatever. It's more personal to me, I guess. And, like, it has a more distinct style instead of just making something for fun.
Yeah. And I mean, I think when you go into songwriting, you can always make what you're feeling, but as you get like know what you want to make, that is a more powerful combination. Because there's a lot of diversity on your first album, and from what you're saying, it sounds like even if there are more songs, it's going to be like more of a flow to it in the new album. Seeing like cohesion, even if it sounds different, like it's the feel is there, the idea is there, and finding that. Because like not too long ago, I think it would have been about a year ago now, I stumbled across Merzbow, probably the most famous noise artist, period, which isn't a huge statement because he's still not very famous. But I ended up making some noise music and finding my own voice in that, and it was almost funny. Like the longer I went, it was like it wasn't changing very much, but I was happier with what I was making because I was just like focusing my vision more and like seeing, I understand what I'm making more, and I'm happier with that. Do you think that as that first album has aged, is it something where you're trying to grow away from that and it's like you feel like it needs to change, or is it just like creative evolution that has brought you to the new, like a new sound? Do you think it's more of a new sound, or you're like actively trying to move away from what the first album was?
I'd say it's both.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's both. Like, I don't want to make another Twisted Figure.
Mainly because I think we were just became super repulsed by the album right after we made it, just based off of how choppy
Even
the
like
recording
fucking
was.
before it came out, I didn't like it. Like, I remember I was in Europe, and I think we were about to announce the album, and I was listening to Stardust, and I just like I felt sick. I was just like, what have I made? And I don't know, High Boats is just like kind of self-indulgent, and it's like, and I think, okay, one of the worst parts for me is like, if you're just going into it and you didn't really know the process behind it, I'm sure it's easier to listen to than it is for us. But I think a big part of it is that I remember the headspace I was in and what I was thinking and how I reached a lot of the conclusions I did when making that album. And I think that makes it much worse because there'd be points when I would record something, I would not like it, and I would keep it. And just like knowing that just kind of makes it frustrating to listen to because it's like we were on the edge of something good. And if we just put 10% more effort, maybe we would have reached it. But it's like, I don't know. I mean, we would record songs and like I think the whole thing was recorded in like 6 days. And it's like an hour long. And then the mixing took like 2 days. And like for our first album, that's kind of insane. So.
Well, I will say I'm glad that self-indulgence happened because I do genuinely really enjoy that album, and I'm glad it's all light. But I'm excited to see what a more fulfilled vision looks like from you guys. Have you been recording already? Are you like deep into the recording process now?
We're deep into it.
We're pretty deep into it.
I think we started recording May 1st, and it's now September 1st. I think.
I believe it's the
September
2nd.
2nd, but close enough.
Yeah, okay. So that's about 4 months.
Yeah, that's a lot longer than 6 days.
Arguably.
How do you think that will change like the sound of things going from a 6-day recording process to however long, maybe in 6 months?
Huge. It's like you listen to it and it's bearable. I mean, I don't know. It's like, it's more realized. It's like you listen to it and you get a sense of what we're trying to do, and it doesn't sound like DIY, and it doesn't sound like indie. I guess for me, my main motive for this album is just been completely escape the label of like indie. Just because like I just don't like it. I don't want people to listen to our music and associate it with sloppiness. You know, like I don't want to be slopping.
A big part of the ethos of us making this album is wanting to make something that really nobody's heard before.
Yeah.
Because there's it's very easy to make something that's just sort of falls into a movement or something that's already been celebrated and just sort of to ride a wave, and we want to sort of represent like you don't really have to do that. You can literally make anything. Like anything is possible if you put your mind to it.
Mm-hmm. So
that's sort of been driving us with this record.
And I think for me, especially the EP, I think the EP was the big turning point for me in realizing that. Because it's like, you know, I have the shirt on right now, but I love all that Japanese ambient music. And it's like, I don't know. I mean, I think I realized that, like, you can just make the music you want to make and people somewhere will like it. And I think that's great. And I think that should be just encouraged more. Like, why not just, like, make an ambient EP after making, like, an indie rock thing? Like,
yeah.
I don't know. Just, like, do it if you want to. If you like the music, you know, make it. And I guess that's how I see it.
And I do think it is freeing to not be like, you know, if you had made 3 of those, you know, whatever you want to call indie rock DIY albums, you would have been like, man, we're really locked into this. But to have the freedom to know, like, go from that to that EP with the Paper Bears, and then have, you know, Talking Now, moving forward and changing your style. It's good to know. Heartbreaking news for the fans, though, that it will be less slopping on this album. I think we were all very excited for that.
Yeah, we're gonna push away a lot of the slopping fans. The slopping community is gonna have a hard time with this, but
yeah, I think another thing I wanted to talk about is just like Saturn Factory's audience is just so odd, and it's like, I think because of, no, I'm not saying anyone in particular is odd. That's not what I meant. I mean, like, the combination of groups is so weird,
Yeah.
and it's like, I feel like because of our diversity with like our first EP is like avant folk, ambient, improv, noise,
Weird.
yeah, just like weird shit. And then the album is like very accessible, and then the EP is ambient. It's like there's not one group we can directly just, here's my thing. You guys do the same thing. You guys will like it. It's like, I don't know. It's just like, who do we push it to, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean,
I feel like we haven't really found like a space online that we can nudge into. I mean, I guess Fourth Verse formerly was that, and that's why I'm so sad that Fourth Verse kind of separated. But it's like we don't really have anywhere to go in terms of space. It's like we're just all over the place.
yeah, I mean, I think of someone else in that space, Fourth Verse stuff, with Marcus and his creative evolution and kind of like the parallels there, like him going, post rock to like, whatever he'd say, probably indie, probably just bad is what he would
Like
say, 'cause
folk.
he's too hard on himself. And then like straight into like more full on folk music, and then like his recent folk covers EP, like, it's almost like he's drawing a line that either goes up or down or whatever you want to say in terms of style. And for you guys, it's kind of been like, like a dodecahedron or whatever you'd want to say.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of found its own way to things, and I think that is very interesting, and I'm very excited to see what you guys have for the next one. I do have
When you're out of my mind, you are nowhere at all.
When you're pushing me in I
love Marcus.
I love Marcus
Marcus is
too.
one of my biggest inspirations.
And then I have my most
Wonderful
self-indulgent
man.
question. Are you ready?
Yes.
Let's do it.
Will there be water sounds on the next album?
There
I
will
don't-
be maybe some.
Because when I
Maybe.
first put your CD in, I thought my CD player was broken because I was like, "Why are there water sounds?" And then there are water sounds on your EP too, right? Your newest one, if I'm remembering correctly.
There's a lot. There's more.
Quite a lot of water sounds. So hopefully, it's been like a kind of a big emotional connection for me to the Saturn Factory water sounds.
Water?
So
It's because we piss on our instruments.
oh, is it like inside the guitars when you're recording and stuff? Like in the sound holes?
we make sure to fill it up so it gets that certain timbre.
All
Okay.
of the yellow guitars. You'll see them, they're yellow.
Oh. The strings are...
They're aging. They're aging, too.
They're aging. That's
they're
good.
yellow.
They'll rot
Very
out of the
quickly.
back soon.
Very quickly.
I'm sorry.
Oh, you're all good. Do you have anything you'd like to close out with? Any final statements to leave with the world?
God, is that going to be at the very end of the interview?
That's what I was
If
hoping
people
for.
need-
Yes.
They need to stick around.
Oh, yeah. I have something
Rowan
to
is
tell.
the number one dad.
Album out November.
Is this an official announcement here? I'm getting.
It
No.
will come out.
It will
I mean,
come
maybe,
out-
I don't know.
It'll come out. It'll come out this year.
this year. Okay, well that's very exciting. I'm very excited to see what you guys what get done next, and everybody make sure you go listen to their old music if that's
Or, yeah,
If you want to.
if you want to.
if you want to. Their first album is something I really love and am connected to, even if they're talking about the slopping on it. But especially check out their last EP with the Paper Bears. Very fun and experimental music that I'm also a big fan of. So thank you guys so much for coming on.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much
for
having
having
us.
us.